I worked for the Kardashians, and I found a hidden room full of bodies that looked just like them. It sounds insane, but it's the horrifying truth. Everything I thought I knew about fame was shattered the moment I stumbled onto that room. What I saw there wasn't just about perfection. It was about a price, a deal that no one talks about. The Kardashians' fame? It's built on something far darker than you can imagine. When I got the call, I couldn't believe it. Working for the Kardashians, it felt like winning the lottery. The idea of living that life, the money, the luxury, the endless opportunities, was too tempting to pass up. I went from struggling to make ends meet to rubbing elbows with the most famous family in the world. The first few days felt like a dream. The house was massive, insane even. Everything was perfect. The pristine marble floors, the designer furniture, the state-of-the-art kitchen. I had access to it all. Private jets, luxury cars, invites to parties where the world's biggest stars mingled like it was nothing. For a moment, I felt like I'd stepped into another universe. But something was off. At first it was subtle, small things like how they always looked flawless. Not just in public, but always. They would walk around in their pajamas, yet their skin was smooth, their hair was perfect, as if they had just stepped out of a magazine ad. Every moment was carefully orchestrated. Their image was everything. It was like they couldn't afford to let anyone see the cracks, not even in private. I thought it was just the pressure of fame. But as I spent more time with them, something started to nag at me. There was an unsettling quality to how perfect they were. No one could be that perfect all the time. And yet they were. I started noticing the little things. The family didn't relax. They controlled everything. They were always on, always posing, always making sure they had the right lighting, the right angle. The rest of the world, they only got to see what the Kardashians allowed. Behind closed doors, I started hearing whispers from other staff. They never let their guard down. One of them muttered under their breath, "It's like they're in constant performance mode." But for a while, I ignored it. After all, what did I care? This was a dream job. I was getting paid well. They were giving me access to a lifestyle most people only dream of. So what if they were a little obsessed with staying perfect? Then came the night I stayed late. I was running an errand, picking up some documents for the family's assistant. I passed a door I'd never noticed before, one that looked like it led to a part of the house I'd never been in. I shouldn't have been curious. I should have turned around. But something about it made me feel like I was supposed to open it. I didn't know it then, but that door, it would change everything. Retention's hook, that hidden room, it wasn't just some forgotten storage space. It was the beginning of a nightmare I would never escape. I didn't know what I was expecting when I opened that door, but nothing could have prepared me for what I found. The hallway was dimly lit, the air stale with the scent of something unfamiliar. It wasn't just the coldness in the room. It felt like stepping into a forgotten world, one that had been sealed off for years. The door creaked as I pushed it open, revealing a space that seemed out of place, like a hidden secret that wasn't meant to be found. The room was larger than I expected, and the first thing that struck me was the silence. It wasn't just quiet. It was oppressive, as if the air itself was holding its breath. I took a few cautious steps inside. The first thing I noticed were the bodies. They weren't mannequins. They weren't lifeless figures meant for display. These were preserved bodies, real bodies dressed in clothes that looked like they had been carefully placed, positioned in lifelike stances. My heart dropped into my stomach. The bodies were arranged on pedestals, each one meticulously positioned, their eyes wide open, their expressions frozen in time. I felt a wave of dizziness hit me as I took another step closer, realizing that I recognized them. I recognized their faces. They looked just like the Kardashians. At first, I thought I was imagining it, my mind playing tricks on me. But the longer I looked, the more I realized what I was seeing wasn't a trick. These bodies were exact replicas. The facial features were identical. The skin was flawless. They looked almost too perfect, like they had been caught in a moment that wasn't allowed to move forward. I stumbled backward, my breath coming short and shallow. What was going on here? Why were these bodies here? I quickly scanned the room, searching for some kind of explanation. The walls were lined with shelves filled with strange objects, books, journals, and a few old, ancient-looking artifacts. My eyes caught one journal in particular, its cover worn, the leather edges frayed as if it had been opened hundreds of times. I didn't know why I felt compelled to grab it, but I did. The moment my fingers touched the journal, I felt a cold shiver race up my spine. The handwriting was messy, hurried, almost desperate. The words were hard to make out at first, but the more I read, the clearer it became. We cannot let them grow old. The world cannot see what happens when we fall. The price of perfection is higher than we ever imagined, but we must keep it. The words blurred together, but the meaning was undeniable. The Kardashians weren't just obsessed with staying perfect, they had to. The price of their fame was more than just keeping up appearances. The journal spoke of sacrifices, of strange rituals meant to keep them young, to keep them on top. I flipped through the pages, my hands shaking. The further I read, the more it sank in. This wasn't just about beauty or status. This was about something much darker. The family had made a deal to maintain their beauty, their fame, their dominance, and that deal came with a terrible cost. The bodies in the room weren't the first. These were the latest replacements, versions of the Kardashians that had been swapped out to maintain their youth and perfection. They didn't age. They couldn't. They couldn't afford to age. Each body was a failed attempt to hold on to something impossible. Immortality. As I continued reading, I felt my stomach churn. The journal detailed rituals that involved dark practices, sacrifices, and exchanges. There was a mention of an entity, something that the family had made a pact with years ago. In exchange for their fame and beauty, they had to offer up parts of themselves, their humanity. I stopped reading, overwhelmed by what I was uncovering. This wasn't just fame. This was slavery to an entity that demanded everything in return for success. They weren't just victims of their own ambition. They were trapped. I felt nauseous, but I couldn't stop reading. The words felt like a warning, like a map leading me deeper into the family's twisted history. My mind raced with the implications. What was I even doing here? How was I going to get out of this? What was I even supposed to do with this information? Suddenly, a sound broke the silence. I froze. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, approaching the room. I looked toward the door, panic rising in my chest. I needed to hide, to get out of there. But it was too late. The door creaked open, and there, standing in the doorway, was one of the Kardashians. Her face was calm, too calm. She was staring at me with an expression I couldn't read, as if she already knew everything. The room, the bodies, the journal. It was like everything was meant to stay hidden. And now, I had uncovered it all. I had become part of their secret. She stepped inside, her gaze never leaving mine. "You shouldn't have come in here," she said quietly, her voice cold and unfeeling. "You don't know what you've just stumbled upon." Retention hook. But that wasn't the most horrifying part. What I found out next would change everything I thought I knew about the Kardashians and the price they paid to stay on top. The moment she stepped into the room, I thought I might pass out. The air felt heavier, like I was suffocating in a space that wasn't meant to be breathed in. I couldn't look away from the bodies, the perfect replicas of the Kardashians, frozen in time, dressed in clothes that somehow made the whole scene even more unsettling. But I had to snap back to reality. I couldn't be caught standing there, frozen like them. I quickly shoved the journal behind me, trying to keep it hidden, my hands shaking uncontrollably. She stared at me, her eyes cold, unreadable, like I was some inconvenience she needed to deal with. "You shouldn't have come in here," she said again. But this time, her voice wasn't as calm. There was something sharp underneath, something desperate. Her gaze shifted to the bodies in the room, lingering on them for a moment before she turned her attention back to me. "You've seen too much, and now you can't unsee it, but you have no idea what you're dealing with." I didn't know what to say. I couldn't even move. I was caught in her gaze, but at the same time, all I could think about was the journal, the horrifying truth it held. "What is this?" I managed to ask, my voice barely more than a whisper. Her eyes flicked to the journal, which I had foolishly left half covered on the ground. For a brief moment, her expression faltered. "You shouldn't be here. But I guess you already know that." She didn't move toward me at first. Instead, she walked over to one of the bodies, the one that looked most like her, identical, almost eerily so, and gently touched the face. Her fingers lingered on the skin, and for a second, I thought I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Pain, regret. But it disappeared almost instantly, replaced by the cold, emotionless facade I had become so familiar with. "What are you doing here?" she asked again, her tone changing, now almost accusatory. "You have no idea what you've uncovered. This isn't just about fame. This is about survival." She stopped in front of me, her gaze sharp and intense. "You think the Kardashians are just a family that worked hard to get where we are, don't you? You think it's just ambition and talent, that it's about business deals and hard work? That's what the world sees." She took a step closer, her voice dropping lower. "But that's not the whole story. The world doesn't know what we had to do to get here, what we've sacrificed." I couldn't breathe. I didn't know whether to scream or run. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely more than a tremor. She stepped even closer, lowering her voice to a near whisper. "We didn't get here by accident. We made a deal, a pact with something dark, something that has controlled us for years." The room felt like it was closing in on me. I couldn't process what she was saying. A pact with something dark? She took another step toward me, her eyes now full of a cold, bitter resolve. The deal was simple. We wanted fame. We wanted eternal beauty. We wanted to stay young forever. And we got it. But what we gave in return, that's the price no one ever sees. No one knows about the bodies, the replacements. No one knows what we've done to stay perfect. I was frozen. Every part of me screamed to run, but my body didn't move. I couldn't tear my eyes away from her. The truth was coming at me like a freight train, and I couldn't stop it. You think it's all for the money, for the fame? Her voice grew louder now, tinged with anger. It's not. The money and fame, that's just the distraction. The real cost is something far darker. And those bodies you found? She gestured to the lifeless figures in the room. Those are the old versions of us. The ones who couldn't keep up. The ones who failed to stay perfect. Every time we slip, every time we age, we replace ourselves. I staggered back, my mind racing. You replace yourselves? But how? How is that even possible? She looked at me like I was an idiot. There are rituals we've been doing for years. Things that keep us alive, that keep us from growing old. But every time we do it, something is lost in the process. Every time we make one of those bodies, we're sacrificing a part of ourselves. Her eyes hardened, and she took a step back. You shouldn't have found this room. You shouldn't have learned what you have. But now you know, and there's no going back. I wanted to say something, to scream, but the words caught in my throat. I had been right to feel that something was wrong. The truth was too much to bear. I was in too deep now. The worst part, she continued, her voice barely a whisper. We don't have a choice anymore. We're trapped in this cycle. Fame and perfection come at a price, and we've paid it. Over and over again. And now, so have you. The chill that ran through me wasn't just from fear. It was the realization that I wasn't just an observer anymore. I was a part of this dark world too. Retention a hook. But that wasn't the end of the nightmare. What I learned next, that was when I realized just how far this curse reached and how much it was willing to take from me. I couldn't breathe. The walls of the room felt like they were closing in on me. Every word she spoke echoed in my mind, and with each passing second, the weight of the truth pressed harder on my chest. The Kardashians weren't just famous. They were cursed. They weren't just obsessed with perfection. They were slaves to it, trapped in a cycle of beauty and youth they couldn't escape, no matter how hard they tried. We don't have a choice, she had said. We're trapped in this cycle. Fame and perfection come at a price, and we've paid it. Over and over again. I couldn't stop thinking about those bodies. The preserved versions of the Kardashians, lifeless and cold. Those bodies weren't just dolls. They were failures, sacrifices. Every one of them was a version of the family that had fallen behind. They hadn't been able to keep up with the demands of their image, and so they were replaced. But I hadn't realized just how deep it went. I was still frozen in place when she turned away from me, walking toward a large, ornate mirror on the wall. Her reflection stared back at her, flawless, unaging. It was like looking at a different person, someone who hadn't lived through decades of fame, someone untouched by the ravages of time. "Do you think we wanted this?" she asked, her voice suddenly soft, almost mournful. She gazed at herself in the mirror as if searching for something she couldn't find. "Do you think we just wanted to be on TV? To be adored by millions? Number. We were desperate. Desperate to hold on to something that wasn't meant to be held. We wanted to stay perfect, to stay young. And when we made the deal, she trailed off, her voice cracking slightly. The sight of her standing in front of the mirror, so lost and broken beneath her perfect exterior, made my stomach churn. What happens when you don't stay perfect? I whispered, the words slipping out before I could stop them. She turned slowly, her gaze piercing through me, sharp and unfeeling. The deal breaks. Everything falls apart. The aging, the cracks in your skin, the gray hair, the wrinkles. The world sees it, and the world can't see it. It can't. We made the deal with something dark, something ancient, and if we ever let our guard down, if we break... She didn't finish the sentence, but I didn't need her to. I could see it in her eyes. The desperation, the fear of what would happen if they stopped, if they allowed themselves to age, to show their true selves. The truth was too horrific to face. It wasn't just their fame at stake. It was their very existence. We've been forced into this, she continued, her voice lower now, almost a whisper. It was never about wanting the spotlight. It was about survival. The world doesn't see the price. They think it's about beauty, but it's more than that. The beauty, the perfection, that's just the surface. It's about staying alive, staying relevant, staying immortal. I wanted to run. I wanted to turn and leave, but I couldn't. Something was holding me here, forcing me to listen, to absorb the horror of what I had stumbled upon. She stepped closer to me, her expression unreadable. What you don't understand is that there are rules to this. We're not allowed to age. We can't show weakness. If we do, the dark force that gave us this fame, it will take everything. It's already taken parts of us, pieces of who we used to be. Do you see those bodies in the room? They're us. Or rather, they were. Every time we slip, every time we fail to maintain the perfection, they replace us. I felt my heart race, pounding in my ears. How long has this been going on? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She took a deep breath, her eyes distant. Since the beginning, since the first time we made that deal. And now, we're too deep. We can't break free. No one can. The price of perfection is our souls. I took a step back, trying to process what she was saying. It was too much, too insane to understand. A deal? A dark force? Was this even real? How could something so monstrous exist, hidden in plain sight? But what happens to you? I asked, unable to stop the question. What happens when the body gets replaced? What happens to you? She looked away, the sadness in her eyes more than I could bear. We disappear. We aren't who you think we are anymore. The Kardashians you see, they're not us. They're copies, versions of who we used to be. The real us is gone. We've been replaced, piece by piece, but the world doesn't know, and the world can't know. If they ever find out, if the truth ever gets out. She stopped, her breath shaky, like she was afraid of what might happen if the truth came any closer to the surface. Do you understand now? She asked, her voice low and filled with something I couldn't quite place. Regret, fear, maybe both. The price of fame is more than you can imagine. And we're paying it every day. It felt like a punch to the gut. I couldn't look at her anymore. I couldn't bear it. I turned, stumbling back toward the door, my mind spinning. The weight of what I had uncovered, what I had learned, was too much, too unreal to comprehend. But it didn't matter. The truth had found me, and now it was a part of me. Just like the curse that had consumed them, it was going to consume me too. Retention hook. But that was just the beginning. What I uncovered next would show me the true horror of what they had become, and what I was about to become too. I couldn't escape it. The more I learned, the more I felt myself sinking into the same obsession, the same twisted cycle that had consumed the Kardashians. The truth wasn't just a dark secret, it was an infection. And now, I was infected. Every moment spent in their world, every glance at their flawless faces, every picture-perfect interaction, it was all pulling me deeper. What had started as mere curiosity had morphed into something much darker. I began to notice things in my own reflection. Small things at first. My skin, my hair, how I dressed. Was I starting to look like them? Was I starting to care about my appearance more than I ever had? At first, I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was just the influence of being around them. Who wouldn't get caught up in it? After all, this was the Kardashian lifestyle, the ultimate dream. Money, power, beauty. Everyone wanted it, right? But something gnawed at me, like an itch that couldn't be scratched. And then I saw it. It wasn't just them. It was everyone around them. Their staff, the assistants, the makeup artists. All of us, everyone who spent enough time in their world, was slowly being drawn into it. We were all starting to change. The obsession was spreading like wildfire, and it wasn't just about perfection anymore. It was about something deeper, something I hadn't fully understood until now. We were losing ourselves. I found myself getting more impatient, more shallow. I started to care more about how I looked, how I was perceived, than I had ever cared about anything before. I was becoming a reflection of them. The reflection of perfection. The reflection of their curse. The more time I spent around them, the more I understood. The Kardashians had given up pieces of their soul to maintain their fame. They had become the perfect versions of themselves they had always projected to the world. And that, I realized, wasn't something you could easily walk away from. It wasn't something you could escape once you were in. But there was a cost. And it wasn't just the body replacements. It wasn't just the rituals. It was deeper than that. One night, as I was walking through the mansion, I overheard a conversation. One of them talking to someone I didn't recognize. It wasn't supposed to happen, but I couldn't help it. I stopped, my breath caught in my throat, and I listened. What happens when we stop? The voice was shaky, almost pleading. "We can't stop," came the cold, sharp reply. "If we stop, we lose everything, fame, youth, power, it all fades away. And if we fade, we die." "We're already dead," the first voice whispered. "We're already fading. What we did, what we gave up, it's not just a price, it's a sacrifice. And there's nothing left of us now. Not really." I felt my heart race as I realized what I was hearing. This wasn't just about fame. This wasn't just about staying relevant. The Kardashians weren't just preserving their beauty, they were preserving their very existence. The price wasn't just paid in body replacements or sacrifices. It was paid in their very souls. I couldn't pull myself away from the conversation, even though every instinct in me screamed to turn around and run. "We're losing ourselves," the voice continued, shaking. "All of us. We're becoming someone else. someone who isn't us, and we can't even remember who we were anymore. A heavy silence followed. I didn't dare move. The air around me felt thick, suffocating. The truth had slapped me across the face, and I couldn't process it. The Kardashians had become something else. They had given up everything for fame. They had traded their humanity for immortality, and they were starting to lose themselves in the process. But as I stood there, frozen in place, I realized something even more terrifying. The curse wasn't just about the Kardashians. It was about everyone who got close to them, everyone who entered their world, who stepped into their orbit. I was becoming them. I was becoming part of the curse. I didn't know what I expected when I took this job. A glimpse into the glitzy world of the famous, the rich, the beautiful. But I hadn't expected this. I hadn't expected to be changed, to be consumed by the very thing I had once admired. The deeper I went, the harder it became to distinguish between them and me. The way I saw myself, the way I judged my own reflection, it was all changing. It wasn't about beauty anymore. It was about identity, the loss of it, the fear of fading, of becoming irrelevant. The world of the Kardashians wasn't a world I could ever leave. And if I tried, it would take everything from me, just like it had taken from them. I had become part of their curse, the price of perfection. I was starting to pay it, and I didn't know if I could stop it. Retention hook, but that wasn't even the worst of it. What I found out next would make everything I had learned so far seem like a small price to pay. I had tried to escape, but the harder I tried, the more the world seemed to close in on me. The mansion felt like a labyrinth, its hallways twisting into unfamiliar corridors that I never remembered passing through. Every room I entered seemed to be designed to trap me. It was like the house itself was alive, shifting, rearranging, making it impossible to get out. The walls felt too close. The windows were never open enough to breathe. I wasn't sure if it was the house or something else, but it was as if the mansion didn't want me to leave. Every time I turned a corner, I felt like something was watching, waiting. It wasn't paranoia. It was real. I could feel the weight of eyes on me, even when there was no one there. It was like an invisible presence, invisible hands reaching out to keep me tethered, urging me to stay in the web of fame and perfection that had become my prison. It started with the little things. Whispering voices when no one was around. Low murmurs that echoed through the halls. I could hear them clearly, but when I looked around, no one was ever there. Shadows moved in the corners of my vision, darting figures that disappeared the moment I turned my head. It wasn't just a trick of the light. It wasn't just my imagination. I knew something was watching me. I couldn't explain it. I had become hyper-aware of every sound, every flicker of movement, every breath I took. The house felt alive. The walls felt like they were breathing, like the air itself was thick with something dark. The pulse of the mansion seemed to match the rhythm of my own heartbeat. And as the days passed, the pressure increased. I couldn't escape it. At first, I thought it was just paranoia. Maybe the constant stress of the situation was finally getting to me, but then the whispers began to feel deliberate, as if someone or something was trying to make sure I never left. But there was a presence, an energy in the house that followed me. It wasn't just in the walls or in the floors. It was in the very air. It was suffocating, smothering me from every angle. I tried to shake it off, but I couldn't. The feeling was getting worse. It wasn't just the family anymore. It was everyone. The staff, the assistants, even the occasional visitors who came and went. All of them shared the same emptiness in their eyes, the same distant, hollow look, the same fear. It was as though they were all scared of something they couldn't escape. They all had the same obsessive energy, the same desperation to cling to what they had, to appear perfect, even if it wasn't real. There was no space left for any true feeling, no room for any real connection. It was like they had all traded their souls for their place in this world, and now there was nothing left but the need to stay in it, the need to keep up. I was just another cog in that machine, just another puppet in their perfect little world. I started to feel it in myself, too. I began seeing the same hollow look in my own reflection. I would glance into any mirror, any surface, and I would see that perfect, polished image looking back at me. But it wasn't me. It couldn't be. I had become a ghost, a perfect shell without a soul. I looked flawless, but I felt empty. I had stopped being a person a long time ago, hadn't I? My desires, my wants, they were fading, slowly being replaced by a need to fit in, to stay in the game, to keep up appearances. The real me was vanishing, bit by bit, replaced by the need to be seen, to be admired, to be perfect. And it terrified me. I started to see the cracks in my own existence. I wasn't me anymore. I was just another version of them, wearing the same mask, pretending to be something I wasn't. And what was worse, I didn't know if I could stop it. I tried to break free. I tried to leave the mansion, to step outside and breathe the fresh air, to feel the sun on my face, to remember what it felt like to be alive. But every time I reached the door, it felt as though something invisible held me back, preventing me from going any further. There was no escape. A weight settled in my chest, heavy and suffocating. I felt like I couldn't breathe unless I stayed. The door seemed to close on its own, as if it was locking me in. My feet were cemented to the floor. My body refused to move beyond those walls. Every time I tried to walk away, I felt that invisible force pulling me back, pressing me into the mold they had cast me in. I felt like the mansion itself was alive, like it wanted to keep me there, to keep me trapped in its perfect, twisted world. I couldn't leave. It wouldn't let me. The worst part was that I knew it wasn't just the mansion. It wasn't just the family. I wasn't trapped by walls or doors. I was trapped by the curse. The very thing that had claimed them was now claiming me, too. It was in my blood. It was in my mind. It had taken root in me, twisted me into something I wasn't. And there was no way out. I couldn't escape. Not from them. Not from this. I was just another lost soul. Another hollow reflection in a world built on illusion and perfect facades. I was a part of it now. Retention hook. But what I realized next, it was the moment I knew I was never going to be free again. The curse had taken everything, and there was no going back. I had become one of them. There was no denying it anymore. The reflection I saw in the mirror wasn't just me. It was a hollow, distorted version of the person I used to be. I had crossed the line. I was no longer an outsider in their world. I was trapped in it, consumed by it, the same way they had been. I used to think I could fight it. I thought I could walk away from the obsession, the pressure, the darkness. But the moment I tried to leave, it all became clear. I wasn't just a witness anymore. I was part of the system, part of the curse that had claimed them. And now, it had claimed me too. There was no going back. The same emptiness I saw in the Kardashians' eyes was now in mine. The constant drive for perfection had eaten away at every part of me. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw the same thing. Someone who had lost their identity. Someone who had given up everything for an illusion of beauty, for fame, for the false security of a world that wasn't even real. I had become just another hollow shell, obsessed with staying perfect, obsessed with the need to be seen. And the worst part? I couldn't even remember when it had started. When did I stop being me? When did I become part of their world? The final truth hit me like a ton of bricks. I had made the same deal they had. I had sacrificed pieces of myself without even realizing it. Fame, beauty, youth. Those were the things I had chased, the things I had wanted to be a part of. But what I didn't know was that you can never have those things without giving something back. And the price, it was everything. Your soul, your humanity. And now, like them, I couldn't escape it. The pull of perfection was too strong. The curse had claimed me. I was trapped in their world in a cycle of vanity and sacrifice that would never end. I was just another body in the room, another version, another faceless shadow, constantly striving for something that was never meant to be kept. I thought I could escape. I thought I could walk away before it was too late. But I was already too far gone. The more I tried to leave, the more I realized there was no way out. There never had been. I was part of their curse now. And there was nothing left of me but the desire to stay perfect forever. I had become one of them. There was no denying it anymore. The reflection I saw in the mirror wasn't just me. It was a hollow, distorted version of the person I used to be. I had crossed the line. I was no longer an outsider in their world. I was trapped in it, consumed by it, the same way they had been. Every day it felt like I was fading, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. My thoughts were clouded by the obsession to maintain the image of perfection, to sustain the facade that had consumed me completely. The house, the people, the lights, it all revolved around a single goal: maintain the image, stay flawless, stay young. Never let anyone see the truth. But the truth wasn't just hidden behind closed doors. It was locked inside us. I used to think I could fight it. I thought I could walk away from the obsession, the pressure, the darkness. I thought that if I just left, I could escape the pull of this world. I didn't realize then that the moment you step into this web, the moment you let the curse of perfection take hold, there's no escaping it. You can run, you can hide, but the more you try to leave, the tighter the noose gets. The moment I tried to walk away, it all became clear. I wasn't just a witness anymore. I wasn't just someone who had stumbled upon their dark secret. I was part of it now. I had crossed over. The curse had claimed me the same way it had claimed them, and there was no turning back. The same emptiness I saw in the Kardashians' eyes was now in mine. The endless drive for perfection had eaten away at every part of me. Each day felt like I was slipping further into this hollow version of myself. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize the person staring back at me. She was flawless, sure, but she wasn't me. She was just a mask, an illusion, an empty shell. The face of a person who had long since given up their soul in exchange for beauty, fame,
and power.
And the worst part? I couldn't even remember when it had started. When had I stopped being me? When had I become part of their world? The final truth hit me like a ton of bricks. I had made the same deal they had. I had sacrificed pieces of myself without even realizing it. Fame, beauty, youth, those were the things I had chased. I had wanted to be a part of that world, wanted to be seen, wanted to have what they had. But what I didn't know, what I hadn't fully understood, was that you can never have those things without giving something back. The price wasn't just what I had to do to fit in. The price wasn't just about the lies I had to tell. The price was my soul, my humanity. And now, it was too late. I had lost it all. And like them, I couldn't escape it. The pull of perfection was too strong. It gnawed at me every second of every day, reminding me that my value was tied to the way I looked, the way I was perceived. The more I tried to break free from it, the deeper it sank into me. The curse had taken root, and it was impossible to shake. I was trapped in their world, in a never-ending cycle of vanity, desperation, and sacrifice. The same curse that had haunted them for years had now claimed me. I was just another version of what they used to be, another body in the room, another lifeless reflection desperately clinging to something that was never meant to last. I used to think I could escape. I thought if I tried hard enough, if I fought hard enough, I could break free. But I was already too far gone. The curse was inside me, seeping into every part of my being. And now I could feel it taking over. The more I struggled, the more I realized there was no way out. There never had been.
The desire to be perfect, to be flawless, to be admired, it had consumed me. It had become my entire existence. There was nothing left of me except that hunger, that need. The desire to stay perfect, to stay young, to never fall behind.
But the more I clung to it, the more I realized that I wasn't even living anymore. I was existing in a constant state of fear. Fear that I would lose everything. Fear that I would fade into nothingness. The same fear that had gripped them for so long had now become mine. The fear that the moment I let go, the moment I allowed myself to age, to slip, to be human, I would lose it all. And that was the final price. I had become just another piece in the machine, just another cog in the endless cycle of sacrifice and perfection. I had lost myself to it, just like the Kardashians had. The world I had stepped into wasn't a world of fame and luxury. It was a prison, and I was trapped in it, just as they were. I thought I could walk away, but the truth was, I was never meant to leave. Once you're in, you're part of the curse forever. And now, I was no different from them. And the worst part, I wasn't alone. The curse had claimed them all. And now, it had claimed me too. Final payoff. I thought I had it all figured out when I first stepped into that world. The money, the fame, the luxury. This was everything I'd ever dreamed of. But now I know the truth. The Kardashians aren't just famous. They're cursed. They've made a deal, and the price of that deal is the most expensive thing you could imagine. It's their humanity, their soul, and now it's mine too. The bodies I found in that hidden room were just a small part of the nightmare. The real horror is that the price of fame never ends. It never lets you go. It consumes you, turning you into something you're not. I tried to escape, but the curse has already claimed me. Now, I'm just another lost soul in their world. A world where perfection is everything, and the cost of that perfection is more than anyone can bear.